You ever get tired of hearing all these bigwigs? Charlize Theron, Brad Pitt, Sylvester Stallone, Halle Berry, and the list goes on. You love working with the students just starting out, or the big stars.
Well, most of the people that as big stars, I knew as people that were living in their cars or living with 8 other people in a home, working terrible and horrible straight jobs to be able to pay for their acting class and just to try to follow their heart and their dreams and their passions, no matter how little money that they had. And they became stars after doing hard work, taking risks in the choices that they made, and continuing to do the work. That's a very important part of I don't just work with stars. They weren't stars before. So for me, I see people that may be tomorrow's stars, or the people that have, because I've been doing this for almost 40 years. So it's like, these are people that began when they first came to Hollywood, and wanted to explore their dreams and passions. And one of the things that I find the most important part of helping make people's dreams come true and the careers that they want to have happen is work ethic, is courage, and is the ability to say, you know what, it may not work out, I may fail, but I'm willing to do this in spite of all the possibilities and actual probabilities. It's a very difficult business that you will fail. And it's that kind of tenacity and focus and forward motion and being proactive that makes people successful at, in fact, whatever anybody wants to do in their lives.
Yeah, and I like your book so much because it tells people how to be human, which we've forgotten how to be human. We're so used to, I don't know, going through the motions, but whether people become a great actor, and you make them great actors, believe me, they're going to learn about themselves in life, because it seems like we have so many blind spots. I don't know how you delved into every single facet of the human condition. You must have thought about this.
Well, one of the things that I get asked a lot to teach through technology, those online courses, and I just feel that there's something about the world that we live in, and I think part of the reasons why people forget about being human is that they get so caught up in social media, get so caught up in computers, get caught up in technology, that the heart suffers, the soul suffers. I mean, the very nature to me of technology is something that is supposed to take that away. It's supposed to make automation is not a human aspect. Technology is not being a human being and all the issues. There's perfection to being to technology, where there's the imperfection that makes and the flaws that make people human.
Yeah, I like what you have to say about winning. This is not the Charlie Sheen winning. This is a different type of winning. This is the fact that it's the struggle to overcome. And you say when people look at the screen, they don't just want a truthful performance per se, but they want to overcome something. Do we just watch television and movies because it's like we want to understand the human condition? We want to understand, and also there's a redeeming factor, a redeeming value to everything that we do. You seem to put a lot of trust in just the natural sequence of the stories of life, the foibles, the joys, the ups and downs. You try to tell people embrace it all.
Well, I think if people automatically already embrace the good stuff, it's the bad stuff, the darkness, the traumas, your insecurities, your fears that people feel they need to have, that are an object of shame and self-destruction. I feel that that's what makes you special and unique. I believe that the dynamic people of the world are the people that take the very things that usually self-destruct people or are causes to have people have shame and have a failure from, is the very, very things that that is the case of pain, insecurities, and fears are also a very powerful fuel to use to overcome and win with, to overcome anything with. It is the path of most resistance. But when you get to the other side and you are able to win whatever your objective is, whether it's the character's objective or whether it's the objective of your life, the human experience that's watching the actors on screen or on stage, they're watching people who have the same issues, the same insecurities, the same traumas and dramas. And they're saying that person on the screen is actually doing something about it, actually using it to overcome and win with, as opposed to self-destructing with. That maybe if that character who has the same stuff that I have can overcome and win, maybe so can I. So the obligation of the artist is to give humanity hope. Because there's more the pulpit of movies and TV, especially because more people watch movies and television than ever are involved with any form of religion or any other pulpit that people give people information of faith and belief in yourself. And so it's the job that I try to give to my actors, my writers, and my directors, the ability to allow the characters that we see on the screen to be able to utilize those things to accomplish, to evolve, to learn, to change. And the very notion that you can do that, it does apply to anybody's life.
That's
because
true.
It's just the way that you see things. You know, it's like I could take, it's a rainy day, and I could say this rainy day means that I'm going to have problems getting from point A to point B. I'm going to be soaked. I'm probably going to get cold. I maybe even get pneumonia. Or I could say that rainy day allows the plants and the flora and the fauna around me to grow and to prosper because it needs the rain to grow. And then that allows me to have more food on the table for my family, and it allows me to explore fertilization and growth. So it's like the same rainstorm gives us two sides of how you look at things, and that's true of anything.
Yeah, that's true. What do they call that? Mindfulness now? You know, you developed mindfulness before it became mindfulness in your book.
I think mindfulness is a different kind of thing. I think being mindful of what you do and how it affects other people that you love and you care about. Being mindful that sometimes your needs are going to hurt somebody else. That's being mindful.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that I do is about empowerment. I want people to feel empowered by everything. So it's easy to be empowered by good things happening to you, but there's a real challenge and a real skill set that is like outlined in 12 steps, and how you actually make something that allows you to be empowered by the darkest, the most destructive, or what seems to be destructive realities that are around you. Being empowered by this. I find whenever look at life happens, people will ask me, they'll say, well, what if I have a happy life? And I said, well, what is happy? Because there's going to be life happens. People die. People have car accidents. People get diseases that they didn't expect to get. People get fired that even though they try to be really good at their job, or someone breaks up with you. Life happens, and how you take that information and you say, look, how do I learn from this? What is it I'm supposed to learn from this that's going to allow growth? What am I supposed to take? What's my takeaway on this that allows me to be empowered by these very things that usually crush people?
It's like more bad happens than good sometimes. But we can use it, and that's the redeeming value of some of the bad things that happen to make it work for you or to celebrate it. What does Mike Tyson say? That everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, that's kind of what you're saying. He's a good actor too, right? In The Hangover, he was in that movie. Well,
I don't know about his acting skills, but he's somebody who, like, the notion of I'm going to win no matter what it takes.
right.
The kind of that win aspect is like, if I can't win the normal way, I'll bite somebody's ear off. It's just like, it's like, so
Cover that in
you
your
have to
book.
look at
What
that.
came
It's
with
like,
that? Well, you know what? I
yeah,
love.
but then if you think it's like, but listen to this. This is
Yeah.
really important. I
Right?
actually use that example a lot, Michael Tyson, because I don't know much about the world of sports, or especially boxing. But one of the things that I always will know his name because of what he did.
Right.
So the idea is, what should be going that far as an actor and in performance, absolutely. In real life, just to know that the notion that if hurting people is what's going to happen in your desire and your focus to win something, that's where you have to be mindful.
Yeah.
But the main aspect of what I teach, and the technique is based in the power of the actor, the
Hmm.
power that we have to change the world. I call it empowerment through the arts.
Yeah. And
And
you
the empowerment that what you're doing right now by even talking to me, by even bringing up that example, is that you would bring that example up because that's not necessarily the nicest version of the win, but it was a win because people were talking about him, even though he lost the fight.
I'm happy you're talking to me because this is as close as I'm ever going to get to Hollywood, and talking to you. But in sticking with and sticking with boxers, you talk about in your book that it's the behavior that people recognize, not just the words, but in the performance, the behavior. And we had George Foreman on the program. He said he was just using words at one time when he became a preacher, from heavyweight champion. But then he started using his arms and in street preaching and saying, "I'm George Foreman," and he made a real dynamic thing with his behavior and his hands, and started getting attention. You mentioned that it's not just the words.
Absolutely. We should be able to turn down the sound and still laugh in the right places, cry in the right places, respond in the way that we need to respond, because people see before they hear. Without behavior, behavior helps us understand the truth of how people feel, because words can lie. Behavior always tells the truth. And so I'm watching you say, it's like the character says, I've never cheated on you, honey. But your behavior is screaming liar,
Mm.
and overcompensating, because people, when they lie, they overcompensate. And I'm saying that person's not telling the truth, even though what they're saying is, I didn't do anything. So it's the idea that if there's no behavior, then we don't really know truthfully what's going on. Really, that person is going after, and what their intentions are, and what their forward motion is.
How did you learn to have this like lie detector built into you? Or can I say, like a BS detector? It's very important in Hollywood that the scene be truthful. And, you work with script analysis and so forth, and with directors as well. You do everything. But it's important that you get a truthful, how do you learn how to be so truthful? I mean, do you get bored of people ever? Because most of us are kind of phonies.
Well, it's the phony part that is the cover. That's actually the interesting part of who you are. But things you choose to cover with gives you mannerisms and quirks. And so, because you can't, if I was just to be an open book and vulnerable to people, I'm also opening up my ability to get hurt very badly.
Hmm.
So we, as human beings, have found a way. Our checks and balances is, again, in order for me to not get hurt, not put myself in such a vulnerable place, I'm going to have cover mechanisms that are going to allow me to say somebody uses humor to cover their insecurities and their pain.
Guilty.
Some people use some guilty. Me too, guilty. Sometimes I wish I was a little bit more funny, but what can I say? Sometimes some of the jokes work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But but that's my cover. And some people use their intellect. Some people use violence. Some people use ability to manipulate to sell, to con. And there's all kinds of ways that people cover so that they can accomplish and still be vital people in this world and accomplish something without getting hurt and destroyed. So it becomes very interesting behaviorisms that allow us to enjoy performance.
I'd like to know how many of your students became like PhD psychologists especially after working with you and reading this book. Once again, The Power of the Actor, the Chubbuck Technique. We're talking, of course, with world-renowned and prestigious acting coach Ivana Chubbuck, the 12-step acting technique that will take you from script to a living, breathing, dynamic character. There could be a doctor in front. I don't think Sigmund Freud has anything on you.
Well,
No, I'm not.
I know, but I can't, because the thing is, I don't know how to help people out. I know how to. One of my students once said, "I'm therapy without the cure," and I will say that I'm not trying to help people find their ability to exist in life using their traumas and all that. That's what therapy does. What I do is how to take the fraction that makes you most neurotic and therefore most interesting, your lack of confidence, and you're looking at the things that make you dark and scared and looking at your traumas as things that are to paint with. These are your colors. These are the things to make a beautiful picture with. So it's a whole different dynamic. One is understanding the human animal, because one of the things I do in my work is I use behavioral science, the science of psychology, and the science of cultural anthropology, which is the science of and the history of mankind and why we do what we do through history, and culture, where culture comes from, and all that. It's all based in science and being human. But like, how do I use the things that you're trying to cure or trying to manage in therapy? I use it and I explore it even more into a place where it's even more extreme to make it more entertaining and fun end result on screen or on stage.
Well, you know how they say, you have to have, what's my motivation? Or should I do it in a British accent? What's my motivation? You seem to make sure that
first you got to work on your accent. That's so good. I know.
Great thespian, right?
What's my motivation?
That's true. You know your why. You know your why, and it's important that people understand, their why as far as why they do what they do. I found it fascinating just from the human condition to read your book, The Power of the Actor, just acting aside, just to understand the human condition. And you really go deep into it, but it's really important, isn't it? The scene won't take off unless we know the why.
Well, here's the thing. I have a new sentence that I should probably write a book and become a new self-help guru,
Yes.
which I don't ever want to do. But no, not doing that. I'm an artist. But anyway, I have a new thing I call the power of why. Because if we don't understand why we do the things that we do, and now we're talking about the things, again, that create drama or comedy, if we don't understand the why, we can't really explore the depth and the density and the layers and the richness that we can get to in our performance and our writing and our directing. So the power of why, I think, is also really important regarding just living life. Why did your mother abuse you? Why did your father abandon you? It's understanding the human being that has caused you, and also understanding your own reasons why you've done some of the awful things that you've done, it helps you understand how to change that and how to also have a relationship with someone that you couldn't have a relationship with before, because understanding the why also allows a connection and a bonding that you would have never been able to have. And all theater, whether it's on screen or on stage, is all based in relationships. Watching people, the plot facilitates relationship, and what we see is why something becomes popular is because we want to see how this relationship develops. Seeing two people that are unique, because there's no two people that are alike. Finding how they find each other and bond with each other, given all the things that cause them a lack of ability to communicate, the fear and the insecurities that they're not going to be liked back, and fear of rejection and all that kind of stuff. It's like the idea is watching how that relationship finds its way through the course of the film or the stage play is something that's very fascinating. To watch a plot it's like not, because it's a dry thing. There's no new plots. The only thing that's new is relationship, because everybody's different. But George Bernard Shaw once said, he said there are no new plots. It may happen in space. It may happen in period piece. It may happen with cartoon characters. But there are no. The plots are the same. The basic human needs were presented, but how we negotiate our needs through who we are specifically, and understanding the why of all that is going to give us something special that people will want to see.
Mm-hmm. I've got to think there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to communication, and many that we're not aware of. Looking at their lips, their outfits, whatever. How do you do it? I mean, you're able to focus on maybe 20 different things in one conversation, but I would think also that helps the performance. If you're able to, does that help at all to be that aware?
Well, one of the things that I'm really good at is like taking chaos and finding a linear path with it. And art, by its very nature, and emotions, by its very nature, it's chaotic. It's chaos. It doesn't make sense. It's illogical, and there's a lot of moving parts, as you said, to the emotional reality and our forward motion being brought to bear through our emotions. So there's some structure in my mind that allows me to understand how to make a linear path out of a chaos of emotions and people's needs and the human animal itself. One of the things, it's like my father-in-law was a very famous scientist, and one of the things he could do at 6 years old is he created out of kitchen parts a working radio that had three
Wow.
working stations. And so, how did he know how to do that? It's just a gift. One of the things that I really believe in, because I do believe in a higher power, but I believe that God, or your higher power, whatever people believe in, that everybody has a gift. It's up to you to figure out what that is and then to utilize it. And oftentimes, you will find it within something that you love. And it doesn't have, it could be anything. It could be, growing trees. It could be being a farmer. It could be someone who's a butcher, because there's an artistry to all of that. It could be being a mathematician. It could be someone who's a scientist. Whatever it is, you're going to find your gift, and you will be able to be excellent at that. But you have to allow the world to just enter you without the plan. Because when people plan too much, it will always go awry. Allow life to happen. And then I had a friend who was a jazz musician, but he wasn't feeling, and he was working with Dizzy Gillespie. He was successful. So he wasn't getting the joy from it. But so he decided to go back to school, and he took all these different classes, some in literature, some in math, some in science, some in art history, just to explore just all kinds of things. And he came to find that he really liked high math, physics. Mm-hmm. And so then he started going more and more into the sciences. And now, fast forward, to figured out that he loved nuclear physics. And now he is a very famous nuclear physicist who started off as a jazz musician who went to Berkeley College. I'm talking about really high-end musician. Found what he really loved, and he really just has a second nature to, and he's a genius to, is nuclear physics. And who would have thought? But what he did was he allowed himself to be open to the world showing itself and finding your way. And I think that's a really, if you haven't found what it is that you're really good at or what your passion is, then just allow yourself to put yourself in different places like this person did, and just try different notions to see which really affects you, and then follow it from there.
I just like the fact that you put a lot of confidence in the regular plot of life, good or bad, just the story of it. And so how, because you're kind of like a scientist, you talk about how you believe like mathematics and behavior kind of go hand in hand. You think like that. So you're able to look back and say, well, this happened to me, and because of that, this occurred. And there is a little bit of a providential factor in everyday life. I think we miss that.
Well, I think that people have to, I think the most important glean from what I do is no matter how bad life seems to get, there's always a way to be empowered by that information. And I think people need to get that you don't need to spiritually or physically die. There is hope in even the worst of circumstances. There's empowerment in even the gravest of realities, and that you can find involvement, growth, and joy, your own special version of that, because everybody's is different. What gives them joy, what makes them grow, and how they learn, and so one of the things is there's 12 steps, and you'll find, I don't know if you looked at some of the other exercises, it's how to find the serial killer in you, how to feel pregnancy when you're not pregnant, how to feel what it feels like to organically feel pregnant, or organically feel the high of heroin, or drunk high, or it's all numbers. It's like there's all like it's a pattern. There's patterns to everything. So it's like if you look at all those other chapters, there's the 12 steps, which is the basic patterns. Then when we go into getting into different kind of human behaviors or types of people, archetypes, or situations of being like beyond drugs or alcohol and all the different things that just make up life, that there's a pattern to it, and that pattern is in the book. It has like there's these 6 steps to getting to feeling to what it feels like to really organically feel like a serial killer.
That's the second time you said that. You have a thing for serial killers.
Oh, I actually do. There's a great book called Mindhunters, which is all about profiling. And I basically profile my characters, what they're doing today, and I profile it back to what it is that created them to be who they are in today's script, right? And the notion of profiling is like taking a serial killer and saying who they pick to kill, how they kill, how they splay out the body, what they do to the body, and all the different things that go into the end result of their kill. And then you backtrack, and you can actually figure out through profiling, the science of profiling, which is that you can see what it's a male or a female, if this person is a child of divorce, if this person is gay or straight, if this person is has what kind of mental illnesses are they OCD, are they bipolar, are they what kind of parents that they had, what kind of traumas that they had. They can backtrack so minutely that that's how they find these people.
That is fascinating,
because it's a really fascinating science. And this book is called Mindhunters by John Douglas. And people ask me, say, what other book besides yours would you recommend to read? Because my book really is about profiling. I mean, if you really look at it, if you understand the science of profiling, that's what I do. And so that if you want to go to one of the people that invented profiling in the FBI is a guy named John Douglas, and he wrote this book called Mindhunters. And it's all case histories of how they found the killer from the information from the kill itself.
You know, truth be told, I'm addicted to that stuff, those programs. My wife said, turn it off. But I see, obviously, when you go on television or Roku, that there are a lot of people that are interested in that.
Oh, absolutely. And how to make it. What was the show that was so big, that the makings of a murder, or how to make a murder? What was that the series?
You got it.
And it was very addictive. And of course, all those movies about or scripts about like killers, real and imagined. You know, it's like they're huge. People have a fascination to that, and because people are fascinated by the darkness of the world, and that's one of the reasons why we can't. When I'm working on a script, whether it's from the point of view of acting, writing, or directing, it's like we have to like really look at the parts that are the scariest parts to look at, from not only the character point of view, but from your personal point of view, because that courage that you expose as the actor, writer, director to put that out there is something that we will be enthralled by, we will be compelled by. So I like to use this as an example. You're going down a highway and you see beautiful, scenery, and you don't stop to look at it. You just kind of maybe mention to the person in the car with you, say, "Isn't that beautiful?" And the person says, "Yes, it is." But if there's a car accident, and the more jaws of life and ambulances and cars and havoc and mayhem and blood that seems to be spewed forth, the more you have to stop. The more you have to stop and look and see what's going on. And so that's just human nature. I've tried to not stop in those kinds of situations or slow down, but you can't. It's just part of being human. We're compelled by darkness. We're compelled by the edge of humanity, and it's my job as a coach to make sure that people are courageous enough to look at not only the characters' reality, but how that personally is about who they are as well. And it's scary to look at that, to look at some of the things that make us individually maybe not the nicest people. I'll give you another great example I use a lot, which is you're on the top of a tall building. There's not one person in the world that hasn't had one moment to think, if I push that person next to me over, what would that feel like? And the thing is, but then you hit because we are not sociopaths. So the next thought would be, oh my God, I can't believe I've had that thought. But we had the thought. And we are compelled by that thought. And I use it. I do workshops all over the world and different cultures from Australia to Europe to China to Japan to Russia and Ukraine and South America, all over the world with all different kinds of cultures, different points of view about things. And I use that example, and everybody nods their heads.
Wow.
We've all had that thought.
They think about that all over the world, pushing people. It's like it's crazy. Well, because we think that I could never think that.
It's called human nature. It's human nature. It's like that's who we are. So let's embrace that. Let's embrace that's who we are, and explore it more.
Do people just get better when they continue? Charlize Theron, James Franco, you work with Brad Pitt and Sylvester Stallone. Of course, the list goes on, Elizabeth Shue and others. But are people always working on their craft, or that sometimes they get a little lazy?
Sometimes they get lazy, and sometimes they keep working on their craft alongside a coach, and sometimes they do it themselves because they've learned for so many years, in class for a long time. And I mean, Charlize Theron was in class for years, and I always did privates as well. And she doesn't work with me. It hasn't for a bit, but she does the work. She absolutely does the work. And so she was always one of the hardest workers that I had. It's like, she's not famous because she's so pretty. She's famous because she's a hard worker, takes risks in the choices she makes emotionally, and also the projects that she picks. And she's always been that person that when she would work she was like working down the street and on location during a lunch break. Instead of taking lunch, she came to my class and watched that hour of class and then went back to location. And so it's like that's the kind of work ethic that she has, that all these people have. They're really the work ethic is insane, and it's a really important part of being successful. Taking risks and having a really strong work ethic is the recipe for success in all businesses, and also relationships too, because it takes a lot of work to have a great relationship.
That's true. And Ivana, Charlize also played a serial killer. Just saying.
Well, here's the thing about that, because I talk about the serial killer, aspect, and that book Mindhunters. I bring that up a lot, and case histories and stuff like that in class. And she actually produced a show called Mindhunters. So she's been fascinated by it too, by virtue of me bringing it up a lot, and then her being fascinated by the world as well. She's a very interesting human being. She's really cool. She taught me a lot, and she's a lot younger than me. She taught me a lot. She's a very smart, interesting, and just a very curious person. And that's the other thing that I want to throw out.
Yes.
Being curious. Be curious about everything, and you will be a more successful and satisfied person.
I saw a movie about, I think Michael Keaton was in the movie about McDonald's and the guy Kroc, I think his name. Anyway, they talked about how at the beginning there was no regulation. People who own these McDonald's, they made it any way they wanted. You know, some served chicken and all these different things. And soon, long story made short, he regulated it so everything had to be a uniform type of way of McDonald's. Now, if people want to be a Chubbuck technique specialist or they want to coach and have your technique, the 12-step acting technique, it's got to be done right. And that's what's I like the quality control for your acting.
I do. I have a course that I teach teachers how to teach it from all over the world. I have schools all over the world and teachers from all over the world. And you don't always pass the test. You have to be of the right stuff to be able to get the accreditation. It's a very intense, but very inspiring and very empowering course. I just graduated 3 people on Friday, one from Holland, one from Argentina and Uruguay, and another one going to be in Louisiana and Texas. And then I have 3 more people, 2 from Denmark, 1 for directors, 1 for actors, and then the other one's from Bulgaria. And then a couple of weeks after that, starting is going to be 2 people from China, and then and Brazil. So and this is continuous, but I need to keep quality control. I want to make sure that people are empowered by their pain, and not because it could get dangerous to be able to bring up some of the stuff that we bring up and not use it to empower people, empower your own journey with it.
That's really true.
So that's always empower with your stuff, because it is something that you fundamentally have to start becoming a habit, and that's with training and not only as a teacher from the teacher level, but as an actor in the classes, just to make it a habit that you start to see things from a place of this means growth, this doesn't mean destruction.
I want to know, is there an actor or an actress that you wish that you work with, or even someone who passed away that you say, I wish I worked with that actor?
The only person in terms of not about coaching, but I would have liked to have known would have been Dorothy Parker.
I'm thinking,
Dorothy Parker was, she was a female wit writer. She was part of the Algonquin table, those people that were the famous wits of the 1920s and 30s. And I would like to be a part of that world, the Algonquin world, where everybody was funny and intellectually, but it was intellectual, but it really wasn't, because it was all about finding the humor and the foibles of being human in relationships, and making fun of our insecurities and our stuff and how we deal with life and how stupid we could be. And it's like she was just an amazing wit. And Dorothy Parker, I've read all her stuff. She's amazing, and I'd like to have a long conversation with her, and that I would feed from. But in terms of teaching somebody else, I'm a pretty happy camper here. The people I work with and other new people that come to me because they seek me out, because the book has inspired them. And
people getting Oscars.
Yeah, and the fact that
mentioning your name from the pulpit. I mean, how rewarding is that?
Well, it's very, very rewarding. But what's most rewarding is knowing that these people's lives have changed in a prosperous way, both spiritually, emotionally, and also financially, because of working this way. So it's my riches. Those are my riches.
And I think people should go, well, certainly, IvanaChubbuck.com, last name Chubbuck. IvanaChubbuck.com. Get the book. It's called The Power of the Actor, the Chubbuck Technique, the 12-step acting technique that will take you from script to a living, breathing, dynamic character. What would you last parting words to anyone listening right now? Of course, that wants to be an actor, an actress, and make it their life. What would those famous last words be?
Believe in yourself, and that way everybody will believe in you.